I guess I take away probably two layers of kind of big messages that that I'd want to reflect back. The first layer, I think, came through very clearly from everybody, which is we are not talking about a one-size-fits-all kind of thing here. This is not a tool. There is not a box that you tick and that's value for money. We're talking about approaches that fit context. We're talking about approaches that respond to the kinds of intervention. The other message that I took away very clearly from all the presentations, which I'm really heartened by, it's really in line with Chris Nay's own approach, is that when we're talking about value for money, we are better talking about results than we are talking about savings. And I think that's a really important thing to hold on to. The inverted triangle that Tim presented, I think, is a really useful way of saying what's the marginal benefit of saving money on how much you spend on how much you spend on procuring something. Is that going to give you a significant benefit in terms of value for money if you understand value for money in terms of results for poor people? And I think that's a really helpful framing. It leads, I think, into two streams of sort of how you might manage for value for money, which again is where Chris Nade has sought to put its emphasis rather than how we might describe it. And the first is the point that Martin started with, that it's about critical appraisal, that it's about the exercise of judgment, it's about making better decisions, and about making better decisions about that balance between results and resources. And I think, you know, if we could do as Tim said, if we could integrate both our financial cost information, our financial cost management, and our performance information and our results information together into our decision making, we would be delivering value for money. So actually it is that process, as Martin said, of stripping out the spend that doesn't add value. And I think if we are able to think about it as a management habit of exercising judgment, of integrating, and certainly in Chris Nade we know very often the people responsible for financial management and people responsible for performance management don't spend a lot of time sharing their information and their vision of what the world is like together. And actually simply breaking that wall down, I think, and understanding that the point of value for money is about bringing those two worlds together and making better judgments as a result is really helpful. I think that offers us then, as Tim said, a couple of really big benefits. Getting better at comparing options, getting better at understanding there are different ways of skinning this particular cat. Some of them will cost different things. Which of them is going to be better? I think that's a really useful way of thinking about value for money. And ultimately understanding our distinctive added value as an organisation. So getting to the idea that value for money is about added value, I think is really helpful. Of course, the flip side of that is all the risks that Tim mentioned, that we do take the easy way out, that we do race to the bottom, that the value for money agenda, along with the results agenda, which it is part of, delivers stupider programmes, takes us back to programmes which are less structural, less transformational. I think if we're able to hang on to the second big strand, which I heard across the piece, is about whose value, then I think that's the big bulwark that we have against that risk. So if we understand, when we think about value for money, whose value we're talking about poor people's value. Very practically from PTF, involving poor people themselves in assessing, in monitoring, in controlling corruption, in looking at cost, in understanding value. As Tim says, more generally, basing our judgments of results on poor people's judgment of results. If we're able to do that, then I think that is our big bulwark against the race to the bottom. But we have to hold to that all the time. Fascinating use of metrics, I thought. Chris Nade, in one of the case studies which is available at the back, have done a similar thing to PTF in saying, well, we put this much money into this programme, it's delivered this much and an absolutely measurable monetary benefit in terms of money that the government of India is now spending that it was not spending. Personally, I think it's a completely legitimate metric in exactly the same way as the books delivered are a completely legitimate metric. I think Tim's warning that we need to be pragmatic where those metrics exist, we should use them, but we need to be sensitive, that we shouldn't allow them to become the driver. And I'm sure many of us have been in a situation I've been in where people say, well, but then people are just going to use that information stupidly. You think, no, it's right, we'll manage it sensitively. But the longer the information is in the public domain, the less control you have over how sensitively it's managed. And so I think we need to sort of be careful with our metrics, while recognising that they are important. I guess that, to me, puts a big question over Tim's fascinating final point of the Rosetta Stone. Because if we are seeing value for money as the continuous process of critical appraisal and judgment, if we are seeing it as something which helps us articulate our distinctive added value, if we are seeing it as something which is about how poor people in their context understand what value is, what results are, the chances of finding a single Rosetta Stone that even 2 or 3 of us can cohere around, let alone 40 or 50 of us, I think feel to me very slender. I wish it were there, but I'm not sure. I think the discontinuity of models, the discontinuity of contexts, the discontinuity of the lived reality of poverty suggests that that may be more of a holy grail than a Rosetta Stone. I'm sure I'm out of time, and I wanted to finish with the point of time. I think that was well made, both in PTF's examples of processes which continue after the intervention, and in Tim's general point about transformative processes taking longer time, that I think we need, if we're understanding this in terms of results, another bulwark against stupider projects. We need to understand that results take time, and we need to understand that value therefore takes time to be developed. And we need to think about processes that help us hold that longer time frame when we have this discussion about value for money.